Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol niyeh b'dvaroi. L'chaim, l'chaim, everybody. L'chaim l'bracha to life and blessings. And what is life? And what's a blessing? Is to be able to recognize the power of Creator within creation. To be able to recognize every moment that God is creating our reality, that He is our reality. Not just He's creating our reality, but that He is our reality. In every single nuance, in every single angle. That's called l'chaim v'livracha. That's what means life. That's what means a blessing. So that is life, and that we live with that, not easy. It's one thing to know it intellectually. There's another thing to be able to live that. So the righteous, they live that. Every nuance. A Rebbe in particular is an individual who lives that with every breath. Every breath for them is a breath. As the word breath is neshima, which comes from neshama, which means soul. As God breathed in the breath of God, blew the breath of Him into man, into Adam, to make the soul of life, the soul, living soul. So every breath, they are connecting and thanking God. So we don't do that with every breath in a conscious manner, but that is the truth of life. And that's a blessing when we can appreciate that. And at least, as they say in French, don't get zekratzt. Don't get, sweat the small stuff, and even the bigger stuff, be able to see the blessing. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim bracha.
I referred to life.
Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zrich and Kedeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We are continuing in chapter 10. And what we are coming to an understanding is the power of Creator within creation. But there's two ways, two paths. The first 7 chapters, we're dealing with a path from above to below. Yichudi Elo, the higher level of unity. And now we're dealing with a lower level of unity. Yichudi Tata. Now, lower sounds like it's lesser, but as we will come to appreciate eventually, then there's a certain benefit and greatness from below to above, as will become more apparent as we continue in our understanding. So, what is the Alter Rebbe telling us now? He's saying that God has certain divine attributes, 3 components of intelligence, Chabad, Chachma, Bina, V'das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. 7 divine emotions. 7 divine emotions. And why is God giving us these 10? Let me back up for a moment. From God's perspective, does He have 10 divine attributes? Is He got, there's His will, there's His wisdom, there's His kindness, there's His, attribute of netzach, of endurance, of triumph. Right? We learned in Chumash today. God triumphed for the Jewish people. That's the attribute of Netzach, of being triumphant. From God's perspective, how is he seeing it? Anybody?
Without distinction.
Without distinction, right? Without distinction. From my perspective, I see distinction. Why? Because our interactions with an individual, when someone gives you real good advice, what are you perceiving of that person then? Their intelligence, their wisdom. Are you perceiving anything else about them? Maybe not. Maybe kindness because he shared it with you, perhaps. Or maybe compassion because they were compassionate to do it, but maybe not. Let's say that all you got was their wisdom. All you're perceiving is that aspect of them, right? Where is their kindness? It's hidden at that time. It's not expressed. Why is that in the human dimension that way? Because we're a compound of different things. So there being a compound means I could choose this or that, right? Just like my hands, right? I'm a compound of many different limbs. My limbs are not me. They're a part of me, but they're not me, right? So therefore, when I put out my right hand to pick up the coffee cup, right? Is that an expression of my core essence, of the essence of who I am? No. Is it? No. It's just me extending my right hand to take a l'chaim with a cup of coffee, l'chaim. Correct?
Yeah.
Why? Because I am not perfect oneness with my right hand. I'm not. Right? And therefore, it's just a part of me, but not me. It's a part of me. Like that's my right hand. We get that with the limb, right? We get that with a limb. But it's the same thing as with our intelligence. Our intelligence also, because not always do we use our intelligence, right? Or at least engage in it, or our kindness, right? Right now, you're sitting here and learning. You're not engaged with your kindness because it's not the time to. The point is because your kindness is an aspect of you, but it's not you. Right? It's an aspect of you, but not you. So therefore, it can be dormant in the moment. Right? You didn't access that part of you in this moment. You're accessing your intelligence right now so you could understand. You're accessing your thoughts so you're focused on the teachings rather than your thoughts are elsewhere, right? Like on a phone doing something else. No, I'm sure no one's doing that no one's doing that, right? You're just focused. Right. So because we're a compound. God's not that way. His kindness, his intelligence is perfectly a whole oneness with him in a perfect unity. At the same time, that kindness is infinitely removed from him. Because is he kindness? No. Kindness is actually a creation of it emanates from him and it emerges from him. It emerges from him, but it's not him, but yet it's perfect oneness with him. So when God is being kind, what's really happening is it's God. We see it distinctively. Oh, now God's kind. Oh, now, we had here yesterday, like 10 centimeters of rain. A centimeter, 10 centimeters is like 5 inches, 4 inches. It's like 4 inches of rain. You know what 4 inches of, how much rain that is? That's like crazy. Right. And my wife, it took her an hour to drive home, to my daughter-in-law an hour to go pick up the kids from camp to bring them home, which usually is a 5-minute drive. Took an hour. What was the experience then? What were you experiencing? Knowing that this is coming from God, it didn't come from Hurricane Beryl. Came via Hurricane Beryl, but it's from God. Right? What were people experiencing? The awesomeness of God, not the kindness of God. No one felt kindness at that moment, stuck in traffic for an hour. No one felt that. They felt God's awesome. Look what's going on over here. This is whoa, right? Hopefully no one felt anything negative, They only felt the awesomeness of it, right? Right? But the point being, though, did you feel God's kindness? No.
No.
He felt his awesomeness, his left hand, not his right hand, right? The left side, if you will, of Gvura, the power and the strength of God. That's what Gvura is, his strength. That's what we felt, right? I was sitting in traffic. It was crazy, right? Anyways, the point being, we're taking it in this compartmentalized way. Why? Because that's who we are. We're compartmentalized. So therefore, we perceive things that way from God. But God isn't that way. It's from God himself, that it's a perfect whole oneness of God, meaning it's an expression of God, period. That's what's happening, right? Now, and as the Zohar says, you have brought forth the 10 tikkunim, the 10 garments that we call spheres, and you direct them in the hidden worlds, the revealed worlds, right? And further it says, as it's written, that you have founded the earth with wisdom. In other words, it's you, God. You founded it. We see it as different things of God, 10 different things of God. But from God's perspective, it's all whole oneness with him and a perfect oneness with him. Now, where we're going to go with this, where we're going to go with this tomorrow, is that we're going to show how God gives us the perception of him in the various attributes, emotive attributes. As I've asked the question before, why is there 7 days a week? It's irrational. It's not a whole number. It's not number 10, which would be rational, right? Because the days of the week are arbitrary. A month is 28. A month is lunar. It's 28 and a half. 28 it's 28 days, 12 hours and 48 minutes. Right? That's the cycle. The sun, the solar year is 365 and a quarter days. So that those make sense, right? But a week doesn't make sense. It's a very weak argument to call it 7 days a week. Right? Except that the Torah does that. God did that in creation. No, because God did it in creation. Right? And the Torah only told us that in the year 2448. So why is it that way? We're going to find out tomorrow. But in the meantime, why is it that God then did all of this if in the end God is, well, actually, we have the answer. It's very simple. God is whole, perfect, whole oneness, right? Not compartmentalized. And yet we view him in a compartmentalized way of his kindness now, his gvura now, and so on. Why is it that way? Because we are that way. But why does God give us at all the capacity to be able to view that of him? You know why? Because he wants us to know him. And how could you know him? Only with something that you know of yourself and you have experienced yourself. Otherwise, you can't know God. So we cannot understand or experience what it means, a perfect whole oneness, because we're not a perfect whole oneness. We're a compartmentalized, unified being, but a compounded being, but not a perfect whole oneness being. We're not. But in order that we can know God, since we have that a part of us, the 10 divine attributes, through knowing that in us, in the compartmentalized way, in the compounded way, we can know now something about God and have a deeper, more meaningful relationship with him. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that clear? All right. Okay. I'm opening up for questions now. For questions on what we learned, not something, we're not going to digress. We're not going to go into personal stuff, even though I did, but that's, but that was only to express the idea here. Okay. Thela Ann has a question. And it is, what about when his hand is closed as a fist and not open? How is God in this instance? So that's the left hand, right? When you want to show might, what do? You make a fist. So God's gevura, which is the left hand expressed in the left hand, right, is God showing his strength. So when it rained yesterday, that's what we felt, God's power, God's strength. When it's sunny out and it's beautiful and we're taking it, God's, wonderment of the world before us, then that's expressed in the right hand, because the right hand is giving. That's why when we give charity, we give it with our right hand. If you're right-handed, if you're left-handed, and this is your that hand, right? So that's God's right hand figure of speech, right? So that's what it means. So when God shows his power, sometimes it's so powerful that it's destructive. Sometimes it's just powerful and it's just a lot of rain and puts you through, a challenge. Patricia says, I have tons of questions. Somehow they get answered in unexpected ways. That's beautiful. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you for sharing that. Beautiful. Yes, that means you're really focused in learning and growing. Okay. Any other questions? Ariel Schleimer. No question?
Not today.
All right. Oh, let me see online here. Rachel, any questions here? I don't see. Nope. For life and for blessing. And this is life, and what a blessing it is. This is life. Learning Tanya every day. Of course, learning Chumash and Rashi before that. And before that, learning Chassidus. And now to go learn Rambam, Maimonides' teachings. This is life. Doesn't get better. L'chaim v'racha.
Know how I interpret life? I interpret life as being a moment in time. Because as we know, for the human being, we are finite. Only Hashem is infinite. And, when you're very, very young, you don't think about that. Once she hit 21, like I'm now over 21, you begin to realize that life is finite. Does not go on forever. It's just a moment in time.
Yeah. So Alice has a question. Can we really know Hashem's ways if they are perceived in different ways by different people? Rain, for example, is good for a farmer. Excellent question. You're right. One person can perceive the rain as as a challenge, a difficulty, because they're stuck in traffic, because there was flooding going on, and therefore roads closed and so on, and they're perceiving it in such a manner. Other people, like the farmer, maybe he sees it as a blessing. Exactly. The truth is, the challenge is not less a blessing. See, blessing, strength does not mean not blessing, right? When we speak about gvura, the challenge in being in traffic doesn't mean that there isn't a blessing in it, right? Both are a blessing. One might be more easily perceived as one and less more challenging to see the blessing. So there's a difference between the term blessing and saying God's kindness and God's gevura, chesed or gevura. Those are the emotional attributes of God, the emotive attributes of God. That's what we're talking about. Blessing, It's all a blessing. Some's a perceived blessing and some's a hidden blessing, right? So it's all a blessing. It's all good because God is only good. God's not like he's good and there's also some, no, there's nothing bad about God. He's only but good. So whatever comes is good, but our perception of it may be that it is chesed, that it's an embrace, right? Or it might be, hold back, a refrain, might be not giving. But not giving doesn't mean it's bad. I mean, you don't give the candy to your child before dinner or the ice cream to them. They feel, hey, they're not getting what they want, but is that bad? No, not bad. It's good, but it's not perceived as, by the child, for sure not. But even the adult who's motivated by doing good, but it is a refrain. Okay. Very good. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zuch and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Thank you for joining. Have an amazing, wonderful day. Rambam is coming up. For those who are on TRC tonight at 4 p.m, come join us on TRC.